the source. It was a third-hand story for him, where we were testing the, I think they were the Atlas intercontinental ballistic missiles. We were firing them downstream in the South Atlantic, and this captain who contacted me was on a ship that was retrieving them after a test fire. Now, these were not hot. They didn't have nuclear weapons on them. They were trying to get the missile to be accurate. But the missiles kept missing their mark, and they knew there was some kind of a subtle electromagnetic thing happening. And there was always an ET craft around. And they got these on radar. So one night, his radar guy had a new, it was RCA radar system, and it was sweeping around, and they picked up a craft. And so the captain was called, came up, they got it. He called the command center, and they got it on radar. Unfortunately, they then hit it with some kind of electronic weapon or something, and the thing blew up. It kind of, there was an explosion in the sky, and it fell straight down into the water, this UFO. And the next morning, his ship was vectored into the point of impact. And they couldn't find the ship, but there was about a 6-foot square pod that had ejected that had 4 of the ET beings in it. And this guy was a salt-of-the-earth Navy guy, and he said, well, they were handsome little men, but they had, their skin was the color of a Sicilian. I never forget him saying it. Sicilian. Okay. And bronze-colored, no hair, no pinna, which is the pinna is the flap, the monkey ears we have. They just have openings. Fine lips, a sort of small nose. And just like the man that contacted me from Skunk Works at Lockheed about the astral projection experience, this person contacted me to find out something that had bugged him. It stuck in his mind and bothered him for 40 years. And I said, well, what is it? He says, well, we got him out of this thing, this pod. They were ordered to put him in the ship's freezer till the nuclear submarine came along and took them. And they were all threatened with death if they talked about this. He says these little men were in sort of these metallicized fabric. It was almost metal, soft metal-like fabric, one-piece suits. I said, yeah, like a onesie. But they didn't have any buttons or zippers. And he said, how could they have gotten in them? And I said, this is why you're calling me? You know, but what's fascinating is the purity of the light and the quality of it. And then there's one more thing. These craft are imbued at the level of nanobiotechnology. You know what that is, where they're actually living and they're conscious. So the craft itself has the consciousness of the occupants, and often it's the chief pilot or the person who's actually directing it, which is usually, they will either touch it and think and they'll go. All right? But the craft itself is not just like a piece of machinery. It's actually living. And there have been more than one military guy I've interviewed who have been on retrieval missions when they get there, and the craft has been injured. I call it injured because it's organic, and there'll be a crack, and it'll be trying to heal. Like if you did a cut, did a time lapse of a healing of a wound on skin, it's doing this kind of thing, trying to fix itself. And so the craft themselves are nanobiotechnology of the Milky Way galaxy. It wasn't instantaneous. It was there for a little while. I don't know if anyone else on Earth saw it, but we saw it. We were looking straight up. And it was like it was alive. The sky was alive. The object was alive. And I realized it was going right in the direction of Australia, which a few days later, I was wheels up to Australia. So, and I think it was, I told my wife, I said, I think they were telling me, you know, bon voyage, and we'll be with you there. But it was a beautiful experience, and it can happen that easily. When I started on this, the core project was this, the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, making contact. I got dragged kicking and screaming into the disclosure project, which started as Project Starlight, where I was doing briefings for the president, CI director, and folks like that, because I was told by some folks that you know, you can do this, but there's all this stuff that has to get fixed, because there were tragedies of history in the post-World War II era. It should have never happened. And we also have to fix that. So there are 3 legs of the program that I'm running. One is the CE5 initiative, CSETI, Interstellar Contact. The other is Disclosure Project, and the other is bringing out the technologies to basically transform the planet physically. All right, so that evolved, but the one unfolded the other. The reason the intelligence community got interested in what we were doing is that they realized we had figured out the Rosetta Stone of contact. And the friendlies then came to me and said, would you please try to fix this? And then someone asked me to come up and brief the CIA director, and then this person, and then the president was scared to death, and they hit a scalar weapon that knocked down Marine One, that was President Clinton's helicopter that lifts up in the White House, and the shot was fired across the bow. So I've been doing stuff at that level, PI, Presidential Intelligence, since 1993. But frankly, that is not where my real passion is. My real passion is what I'm talking about today. And it's in a way sad that we're having this generation, those of us between the ages of puberty and senility. I think everyone here, most of us, are really having to correct a problem from 50 to 100 years ago. Because remember this, high voltage, free energy, they didn't know what it was, technological systems that just generate energy, late 1800s, early 1900s, Tesla, Faraday, Maxwell. EMGs, electromagnetogravitics, where you can create a high voltage, a certain resonant harmonic where you get lift, 1920s, T. Townsend Brown. So we could have had world peace, free energy, anti-gravity, no roads, no pollution, no poverty, and a just and peaceful civilization around the time of my grandparents and great-grandparents. All right?